Well, here at home, international students may be making less money this school year than in previous years. A new federal rule limits them to working 24 hours per week beginning this month. Some advocates say the change is necessary, while others are calling it unfair. During the COVID-19 pandemic, the Liberal government temporarily waived the cap. The move was made to address labor shortages, but that waiver expired on April 30th. Immigration Minister Mark Miller said the new cap will ensure that international students can focus on their studies. Well, my next guest has been deeply affected by this new rule. Alejandro Uribe is an international student that has been forced to give up his full-time job as a social media manager and to take a part-time job at a restaurant. Instead, he joins us from Toronto. Thank you so much for being here, Alejandro.
No, thanks to you for having me.
I want to sort of get a beginning and really a deeper understanding here. From my understanding, before this rule, you worked 40 hours every week. So how will working less change your standard of living?
Okay, so this new rule affects me very deeply as well for, if not all international students, but most of them. I'm not going to generalize the situation. But the truth is like when you come to Canada as an international student, you cannot afford for these high rate salaries. So they just got for the lowest rate. If we consider like if we worked like 40 hours, we were just making about $2,800 in the best of the scenarios. And now they cut it to 24 hours. You know, most of families or international students, let's say like international students just in general, regardless if they're coming alone with their families, they're just going to be able to work like 24 hours, which means like a $1,500 to $1,200 at their best. When you take this information, this number, and you compare it with the reality of the economy right now in Canada, like they got to pay like for only a single room can be like between $800 and $1,000. So that's left like $400 for the rest of the expenses, which is like, you know, the groceries, or the transport service, the rest expenses. That makes it very hard for any international students to come. Like we understand the rules that we applied, but we came with an idea that we'll be able to just like to evolve ourselves here. But now with this new rule, it's challenging, for not saying like impossible for most international students.
So Alejandro, what adjustments have you had to make?
Reduce expenses at their finished. I probably will have to go back. Like already, I have bench experience with this, but I have to go back to just rice and lentils. Apply, of course, for food banks, and you know the food banks for us international students, it's not like that big thing. Like there are many international students, and the priority are for those who came with family. In my case, I don't have family right now, so I just by myself. So usually, when I book an appointment, they give me an appointment for every 2 weeks, and the real value of that help is probably $30, which is gonna last at least one week. So just to reduce the expenses, probably I'm just gonna walk to the college every day, which I'm used to. But it's not that like I'm trying to be very positive, face all challenges. But I know like many families or many international students are gonna struggle a lot with that.
So Alejandro, what message do you want to share with the Canadian government about the difference this working hour cap makes for you and others in your situation?
Okay, so I will just like to express to the government to be more empathic with international students. They know how hard it is for us to get here in Canada to study, like starting from the huge difference between the tuition fees, like we're domestic, like comparing with domestic with international students, the difference is just so big. So like to be more empathic, help us to make things easier for us. In that way, we can improve to Canada, like in the best conditions, like what the Prime Minister said, like, so we can focus more in studies. It's not that, you don't see that much consideration from him, like, because the government cannot behave like if we're our parents are trying to like look for work. Otherwise, they will have to pay. I mean, I'm not saying that they will have to pay, but they will have to be more committed and responsible with us for the studies we're doing here in Canada. So the message is just to have more empathy with international students.
Alejandro, I just want to ask you before we let you go very quickly, what do you make of the federal government's argument that this cap will ensure international students focus on their studies?
I mean, like I'm gonna express this on my words. Like when you say like you focus more on studies, it's something like your father will tell you that you should focus more, but that's like an obligation you have, regardless of the responsibility your father took by paying you the studies and supporting you in that way. The government, instead of supporting us, is just crushing it and cutting the opportunities we have. So the reality of the market is very complex. Like most of employees, they want only full time employees because it's more practical. It gives more secure to their businesses. Because for those who are international and we are no one in Canada. Like we are a vulnerable population, and try to create a name is hard. So when you reduce these opportunities to students just to try to, I don't know what is the real purpose behind that, just complicate all the situations. And the government is not being very responsible by saying just to focus, so you can focus more on your studies. I don't believe the Canada's government has the obligation to look forward our studies. That like they should look like they should allow us to study, and it's up to us to have good grades and succeed here, because we are not studying here for free. We pay expensive tuition fees for do that. So it's like the grades or not is responsible for us, not for the government.
Yep. Thank you so much, Alejandro. That was Alejandro Uribe in Toronto.